Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I never imagined my life would split cleanly into a before and after. But that's exactly what happened the day Marin told me she wanted a divorce. I'm Callum, 39 now, but I was 37 when everything unraveled. Old enough to know better, young enough to be blindsided anyway. We'd been married 9 years, and for at least the last 2 of them, I felt something slipping in ways I couldn't name. Silence replacing laughter. Distance replacing casual touch. Her smile tightening the way a door does right before it shuts. When she finally sat me down, she spoke with that rehearsed calm people use when they've practiced a conversation in front of a mirror. I think we should end this, she said. I'm not happy. You're not enough for me anymore. Not enough. Those 2 words stayed lodged under my ribs long after she packed her boxes. I wish I could say I handled it with dignity, but the truth is, I stumbled through the first months like a man relearning gravity. What made it worse, what made it humiliating, was discovering who she had been leaning on during those last 2 years. His name was Rowan, corporate consultant, gym sculpted, Instagram smooth, the kind of guy who said things like energy alignment without irony. I'd never heard his name until friends quietly told me they had seen them together, too comfortably, too often. 3 months after our divorce papers were signed, they made it official. Not engaged, married. Just like that. I didn't get an invitation, obviously, but in a small town like ours, news spreads before confetti hits the floor. People whispered that she looked radiant, that he looked smug, that the whole ceremony felt rushed. I avoided every photo and every update. Life eventually steadied. I found my own rhythm, a smaller apartment, a new job, a new understanding of myself that didn't orbit someone else's approval. I thought that chapter was closed, until the day of their first anniversary celebration. Our mutual friend Elise insisted on hosting a garden party for them. She invited a bunch of old friends from our circle, including me. I told her no at least 5 times, but Elise has a particular stubbornness that makes concrete look flexible. Callum, it's been a year. You're doing great. Show up, have a drink, be civil. That's all. Against my better judgment, I went. Not because I wanted to see Marin. Not because I wanted closure. More because I needed to prove to myself that I could stand in the same space as my past without falling apart. The party was beautiful, I'll admit that much. String lights draped over oak branches. Tables decorated with pale lavender linens. Soft music floating through the warm evening air. People chatted in clusters, glasses in hand, laughter spilling across the lawn. It felt like one of those scenes from a movie where everyone else has their life figured out. Then I saw her. Marin stood at the far end of the garden, wearing a soft moss-green dress and that same controlled smile I remembered. Rowan hovered beside her, a hand on her lower back, guiding her around like she was a piece he needed in place for his image. When Marin's eyes met mine, she stiffened. Not angry, not sad, just startled, like a memory she wasn't prepared to face. I nodded politely. She mirrored it with attention that told me she'd hoped I wouldn't show. I spent most of the evening near the drink table, blending into conversations that didn't need me. People came up to me, some with short greetings, others with long, sympathetic looks they tried to disguise. But I wasn't there for drama. I was there to prove that I wasn't broken anymore. It was almost working, until one guest arrived late. An older man, maybe mid-60s, walked in with a confident stride that suggested he didn't fear anyone's judgment. He looked at Marin and Rowan like he was seeing something he'd predicted long ago. After greeting a few people, he approached them directly. I wasn't close enough to hear the start of the conversation, but I was close enough to see Marin's body stiffen, Rowan's jaw tighten, and Elisa's eyes widen as though she sensed something was about to ignite. I drifted a little closer, more out of instinct than curiosity. Then the man spoke loudly enough for the surrounding guests to hear, and whatever he said made Marin's face drain, completely, visibly, terrifyingly pale. The conversation froze the entire garden. You could feel the shift in the air, like a sudden drop in temperature. People stopped mid-sentence. A few even stepped closer. And Marin, she looked like her soul had slipped out of her body. The older man cleared his throat, not out of nerves, but out of impatience. Did you tell him? He asked Marin, voice steady, almost disappointed. Rowan's hand dropped from her back. Tell me what? He demanded. Marin didn't speak. Her lips parted, closed, parted again. Her eyes trembled with a fear I had never seen in her. Not even during our worst fights. Rowan's confusion shifted to irritation, then to suspicion. You could see gears turning behind his eyes, calculating every possible scenario she might have hidden. The older man shook his head. I thought maybe you'd grown up enough to be honest this time. This time? Someone whispered nearby. Rowan's voice sharpened. What is he talking about, Marin? She swallowed hard, her hands trembling as she clasped them together. She looked around, as if trying to assess how many people were watching. Spoiler, everyone was. Finally, she whispered, Please, not here. But the man wasn't having it. You should have told him you didn't leave your marriage for him. You left because you thought you were pregnant. A stunned silence fell so quickly it felt like all the oxygen was sucked out of the garden. Rowan blinked. Pregnant? His tone wasn't warm or excited. It was cold, almost dangerous. With whose child? Marin let out a trembling breath, eyes glistening. I thought it was yours, she said quietly. But the older man, who I now realized must have been her late father's closest friend, the one who had practically helped raise her, shook his head firmly. It wasn't his, Rowan, and she knew that. A soft, collective gasp rippled around us. Marin squeezed her eyes shut, as if wishing she could disappear into the earth. I didn't know for sure. I was confused. I was scared. The man cut her off. No, you were reckless. You told me yourself it couldn't have been Rowan's because the two of you. He stopped, catching himself before revealing something explicit in a public garden. You told me it belonged to someone else from work. That man moved across the country. And when you took the test again and it was negative, you latched onto Rowan because you didn't want to face what you'd almost destroyed. I felt something twist in my chest. Not anger, not satisfaction, just understanding. A strange, detached understanding. It explained the sudden coldness during our marriage, the distance, the odd emotional spirals she used to have. Rowan stepped back from her, almost as if touching her would taint him. So you didn't leave him, he pointed at me. For me, you left because you panicked. And I was just convenient. The truth was brutal in its simplicity, and it hung heavy in the air. Marin reached out instinctively. Rowan, wait. Please, just let me explain. He didn't take her hand. You've lied to every man you've been with, he said quietly. And you tried to lie your way into a new life with me. His voice wasn't loud, but the disappointment in it felt like a slap. Given how frenetic the situation was, it would have been easy to feel triumphant, to relish the moment karma unfolded in public. But I didn't. If anything, I felt tired. Tired for her. Tired for all of us. Elise rushed in, eyes wide. Okay, everyone. Let's, maybe give them some privacy. But people weren't moving. Shock anchors people. I finally stepped forward. Not because I wanted to be involved, but because I knew Marin needed someone to break the moment open. Marin, I said gently. She looked at me like she was bracing for impact. You don't owe me anything anymore, but you do owe yourself honesty. Whatever you were running from, it caught up. She stared at me, tears collecting at the brim of her lashes. I didn't mean to hurt you, she whispered. I know, I replied, but you did. And that's something you'll have to make peace with. Rowan stayed silent for a long moment. Then he stepped back another pace, his jaw hardening. I'm leaving, he said simply. You can explain the rest to whoever still cares to hear it. He walked off toward the gate, not looking